For the first time ever since Ronald Reagan in the 1980s, the Teamsters, the largest American union, depending on who you ask, in fact, over 1 million participating members in this union, has refused to endorse either candidate. You might believe, how is this good news for Trump? Let me tell you what, they've been in the pocket of the Democrats forever. And they're rejecting Harris in a way that is so palpable that it's hearkening back to, in high school, not me, but other people must have heard this from a woman saying, I'm just not ready to date right now. Always baloney. And guess what? The Teamsters just pulled that on Kamala Harris. A brilliant. I'm so happy. And look at this poll, okay? They did a research phone poll. The people at the Teamsters, the hegemons, some of these guys spoke at the RNC. A lot of people said, why the hell are you letting these liberals on social issues and economically also not very conservative, why would you let these guys speak at the convention? And the cope was, and I got to give credit to people like Red Eagle Politics and everybody else, friends of the show, really told us and told me, hey, maybe he's going to get a better treatment from the people that run the unions. And guess what? This is incidentally a huge deal for the 2024 election. Let me elaborate a little bit. First and foremost, if you're running as the chairman or whatever, the president of the Teamsters, you have to understand that you're trying to be as partisan as possible. Let's say the guy who runs it is liberal, probably. Well, it turns out that you need to also make sure that the people's public opinion is somewhat in line with what you're saying as the spokesperson of the union. That's the whole point, right? At least a vague note of democracy. That being said, they did a straw poll of hundreds, if not a couple thousand of people all over the country, Western Pennsylvania, California, Michigan, all over the place. And a lot of this even prior to Biden dropping out, by the way. And Donald Trump resoundingly won the straw polls. And guess what? With the majority support in these polls, Donald Trump did not get the endorsement from the Teamsters. Now, while that might seem like, whoa, what a ripoff, also keep in mind that it shows that at least the Overton window is shifting on the blue collar front. What does Lalo mean? Well, he means that basically there's no reason why they wouldn't endorse Trump unless you can already see why, in general, the people that run the unions historically for decades now have been in the pocket of the Democratic Party. But the undergoing and the populist upsurge from candidates such as Donald Trump has caused such an upswelling in the rank and file of the Teamsters that even the leadership has got to be like, okay, fine. I will sell out the Teamsters and not endorse Trump, but I cannot endorse Harris. And again, that is still pushing the agenda in a way that a lot of people won't recognize. And if you look up the news being reported on CNN, MSNBC, ABC, you look at Career Pierre or whatever, the French Creole black chick that runs as press secretary for somehow coincidentally Joe Biden, the president, but then Kamala Harris also, she's sweeping it up for Kamala, even though she's not supposed to be tied with the whole administration because it sucks. That's a story for another day. But anyway, as you can see here, to get to the numbers, filibustering technique is up to the 10th level with me. But to get to the point, Trump gets 58% of support in the Teamsters research poll done. This is a more recent one as of the past week or so. So 58% compared to Harris's measly felt at 31%. That's a 27% difference. Undecided at 6% and don't know at all is 5%, which is probably in line with undecided. It's probably the same thing. Anyway, that's a super majority, obviously. I mean, these margins are the type that you'd see like in Arkansas, like for a Republican, you're winning by 30. Trump is leading by a ton here. You may be asking yourself, how surprising is it in relative terms how they've supported Donald Trump so much as a conglomerate of the Teamsters? How come the support is so drastic? How did it look against Joe Biden? And I'll break it down right now. So in a straw poll done by 300 Teamsters local nationwide, conducted their first presidential town halls to solicit endorsement preferences from members, okay? It shows that in-person voting was held before Biden's withdrawal from the race and basically happened before even the debate performance where he showed everybody had dementia, okay? So anyway, the Teamsters showed that people backed Biden 44.3% to Donald Trump's 36.3%. So in fact, Joe Biden was 8% over Trump, and so far as appeal was going before that debate happened in June or July. So what that basically means for you guys in chat is that Joe Biden had way more blue-collar, white working class appeal than did Kamala Harris. Now, is that a shocker? No. Color me shocked. In fact, let's talk about the person of color, Kamala Harris. Kamala has no appeal to Joe Sixpack. He gets back, he drinks this stuff, he's watching football, he's getting nagged at by the Democrats, and he's had to put up with this. 20 something years ago, he could have been okay in his 30s voting for an Al Gore, voting for Barack Hussein Obama both times. But when it comes down to 2016 and he can pick between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, look where Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan go. Donald Trump wins these narrowly. I only say this to point out that there's no real reason as to why Kamala Harris will win back the support of the white working class. Joe had the Scranton Joe, I'm from Pennsylvania, I'm an old white guy. There is something to that, and he has some sort of like genteel charm, which sounds kind of gross to say because, you know, Joe Biden is an awful president, but at least he is kind of cool. I mean, he put on the MAGA hat. So if anything, it shows that he's cynical enough to at least play to a crowd. Kamala Harris has too much of an ego to do such a thing. Which kind of shows that Joe is at least more amenable to the people that work as rank and file Teamsters. So that shows that, honestly, this departure of Trump all of a sudden winning by 27 points is huge. And it's largely Harris's fault. It's not because Trump is an amazing union figure. In fact, he's good for a Republican, but if you were a Democrat, it wouldn't be anything special. But it's totally down to the fact that Kamala has completely doubled down on the wine mom as they chastise J.D. Vance for calling out the childless cat ladies. I mean, they might be catless ladies if they live in Springfield, Ohio, too. So be careful, women. But anyway, the point being is that she's doubled down on the college-educated white women vote, the pro-abortion diehards. But it's neglected, or at least understood, that she has no profound correlative experience or any sort of resounding resemblance to the people that she's trying to gain the vote from in the Teamsters. So you can hear all this kvetching and whining on CNN or whatever. The truth is, though, is that the people in the rank and file typically support Democrats, and they won't this time around because Kamala Harris is so unpopular, and you love to see it. Here's another huge deal, right? O'Brien, the leader of the Teamsters, he spoke at the Republican National Convention, which is the first time ever, basically. And O'Brien had also requested to speak at the DNC and never received a response back. So that's how much that doubling down has bit them in the arse, okay? Kamala Harris and the people that run her campaign, I doubt she's running the emails. Anyway, and you probably wouldn't, knowing Hillary's track record. When you come down to it, the email he sent or whatever formality to come speak at the DNC, which is supposed to be traditional of the Teamsters to do, he did not get a response back. So it just shows the amount of how unscrupulous, but also how bluntly indifferent these people are. They just assume, oh, we have you in the pocket. We have you Teamsters. Oh, AFL-CIO, you know, all these types. You're going to come vote for us. And you know what? Honestly, a disproportionate amount of them might actually do that, especially for federal government workers, not so much Teamsters that probably work a hell of a lot harder. The point being, though, is that without a doubt, this sort of overlooking of such an important fixture of body politic is just showing and is emblematic of how bad this campaign is being ran from the top on down, which lets you keyed into the fact that Kamala not only does not relate to these people, but also doesn't even have a cynical nature like Biden did or Bill Clinton did to say, well, you know, I didn't work in a factory myself. I know these other white dudes did, and therefore I'm going to try to pitch my vote or pitch them to vote for me. They're at least sensible to do that historically. Kamala does not have that sensibility. In fact, even Obama would pretend to at least care about the factories and the UAW and the stimulus package of the time in the 2010 era. So there was at least a little bit of a belief, a little bit of a benefit of the doubt. And again, I'm making this point because it also brings into the fact that, again, Obama was a black guy nominally who also did not work a hard job, was not a factory worker, was not in a glass factory. He was not doing anything like that. And he still got the Teamster support because he had more charisma. He, frankly, to use a Gen Z term, raised up the people that mattered when it came to voting. And so he didn't have this sort of faux pas that Harris just is experiencing, and for no reason. I can almost promise you that had the DNC let O'Brien speak, the Teamsters president, then it would have been a lot easier to get a Kamala endorsement. But because this isn't the case, it looks horrible. Let's take a quick look at some of the comments from some working class folks. So Joey here says, so the translation is that the Teamsters leadership refuses to endorse a Republican candidate that they cannot endorse Harris without angering their membership. It should come to a vote of the membership who they want to endorse for president. So again, he's just stating the obvious here. Then pissed off Teamster adds some more. He says, what a surprise. An overwhelming majority of members backed Trump over Harris, and now they don't want to endorse. What the hell is the point of polling us then? That was why we voted who we want. Sean O'Brien is just a hack, just like Hoffa. He doesn't care about his members because if he did, the Teamsters would have endorsed the candidate who won the majority of the support from the members. There it is. There it is. People can cope and say, well, you know what? If we don't get the endorsement as the Trump supporters, this is an L for Trump. But truth is that even if they don't endorse Trump, the majority of the members that did vote for Trump in those straw polls are pissed because they spent time saying like, okay, let me go vote. And then for what? For what? They vote in these straw polls to see like where the pulse is of their own membership. And then they don't even respect the wishes of the members. Oh, we're going to step out of this one, guys. Oh, okay. Really? Really? Okay, great. It does piss me off, but it also must piss off the people that spent time out of their day to actually go participate for the Teamsters a hell of a lot more than it does for me. And so for that reason, I believe that this is a huge red pilling moment, for the lack of a better term, for these rank and file people that were not too political, but see the bias for what it is, where they know that their president O'Brien spoke at the RNC, the DNC didn't extend that same favor despite being pro-labor. And you see people in the news like AOC being self-righteous about, when your pinches were about to be felt at, you called the Democrats. Screw you. Nagging. Let's talk about nagging women for a second, right? Politically, not the best look. Just like a crybaby man, you know, it's kind of like you shut the fuck up and just man up. All right. So let's break down the simple math here. So in 2016, we see this, okay? Trump wins the working class voter over a nagging, screeching candidate in Hillary Clinton, okay? You move on to 2020, you put in a white guy who's not as hateable, and all of a sudden, these go blue. Now, again, we know what happened in 2020, but even if, you know, whatever happened there, right? Wink, wink. Even if Joe Biden probably still did better with white guys than did Hillary Clinton. Can we agree? Okay, moving on. So in 24, we're looking at flipping back these three states, namely these Rust Belt states that have gone blue most of the last several decades. In fact, 2016 being the exception, basically. You'll notice that these states have a big bulk of people that are not participating in elections too often. These types need to come back to Donald Trump. And so for this prediction that I'm going to make real quick, I personally believe that this Teamsters endorsement, or the lack thereof, for Harris, truthfully increases Trump's odds by another few percentage points. Not only because it shows that the Teamsters are more Republican than even I assumed, but it also proves that they're also going to start resenting their Democratic leadership because they know exactly they're full of shit. And the plumbers deal with that sort of stuff all the time, and they would hate to deal with it anymore. And so when they notice this, it becomes all the more disgusting, okay? So with that being said, I think that this definitely helps Trump in the Rust Belt. And I pray to see the day that the unions actually support the Republicans and their hack leadership falls to the wayside very peacefully and very much unemployed. Anyways, like the video if you haven't yet, and subscribe if you haven't yet also. See y'all in the next one. Adios.